Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is Linda Beard, author and host of Bold Enough. Thank you so much for welcoming me into your world. Once again, I am so happy and thrilled to be here. I know you have an opportunity to be doing a lot of different things, but I'm so glad that you decided to come back and join Bold Enough. I'm excited. I have a very, very special guest on the show today, my nephew, James Beard. So excited to have him on. We're talking about bold enough to take a risk. Another chapter in the book. There are so many different ways that we have that opportunity to take a risk. Sometimes when we take a risk, it's not only difficult, and there's great opportunity on the other side. And sometimes that risk is just a risk that we take ourselves. But sometimes when we take the risk, it affects a lot of different people through that other side. And we just don't know who those other people may be. And sometimes we do know who those other people are, but it's still worth taking the risk. And sometimes the risk, it's just us ourselves taking the risk, and it's for our own sanity. But today, my nephew, Jay, I call you Jay.
I call you
James. James, we call James, he's an adult now, but he'll always be Jay to me.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, let's get to the point. He took a risk, and we're going to share his story today. And it's an awesome story. Yeah. He took the risk, and it's a good risk.
Yeah, several.
But when we take risk, we also are on this bold enough journey that it plays out, on a daily basis. So just remember that, listeners, it will continuously play out, and every day, you're going to hear me say this often. Are you bold enough to take the necessary actions? So you're constantly protecting yourself, and sometimes you're protecting those around you in those bold enough actions. So welcome, James.
Thank you.
And so begin to tell the viewers and listeners what actually was the bold enough action that you took.
Yeah. So my life has been, I think I've always kind of been a risk taker in a sense. But I think the bold risk that I took was in my life. I was just doing, the 9-to-5 jobs. I was at a point where I wanted to take a chance, be bold enough, and I wanted to kind of experience my life, and I wanted to travel. And I know a lot of people told me at that time period that, because I think I was in my 30s at the time, that I needed to just hunker down and just start working on my finances. But in my heart, in what everything was driving me to was that I wanted to travel and experience the world. And so at that time, I was communicating with this special someone. We had both been in the health and fitness industry for a while, just communicating online for about 6 months straight, just going back and forth. And I remember telling my dad at that time, I was telling him, hey, look, I'm going to travel to the United Kingdom.
I'm going to pause you for just a moment because this is really important. And it speaks about this in my book, that you cannot live your life based on other people's expectations.
Yeah.
Particularly older generations have had a basic formula for many, many years. And that is to do things safely in a very methodical order.
Yeah.
That may not be who you are.
Yeah.
Okay. So I want to just point that out.
Yeah.
So I was hearing you need to do XYZ because that's a standard of what is safe.
And understandably, because they're
Right.
trying to look out for you.
And they're trying to look out
for you.
because
Right.
that's being protective, that's showing love, right?
It is.
So
Yeah.
bold enough to take a risk is breaking the mold.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that decision, like you said, just taking that decision completely transformed the trajectory of my entire life. That decision, that one decision, traveling to the United Kingdom. And from there, like you said, I met my wife and we went a whole different direction. But yeah, that was my, and I did take some time, like I said, my father is my idol. He was everything.
My idol too, by the way.
So
man.
his words mean something. He doesn't just say it. But I told him, I just said, Dad, I'm going to do this. I am going to go ahead and travel, and I'm going to go meet Samantha. And I did. I took that risk, and I flew to the United Kingdom, and it was a risk on her side also. And I don't want to just make it seem like it was one side; it was on both sides. And we met each other, and 6 months later, this was a reoccurring thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
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 So you met her, and then what?
Yeah. So we kicked it. It was an instant chemistry right away. We had a great time. I got to meet her entire family, got to see the United Kingdom itself, and that's something I will always say, take the risk of traveling. That's one of the things, if you have a chance, be bold enough. And I know a lot of times people are scared to go outside of their comfort zone, but that was such a monumental, such a great decision when I look back on it. We took that risk, and I went ahead and traveled, and I met up with her, and we just hit it off. And the crazy part of it is that one trip led to about 4 other trips to the United Kingdom, which eventually led to us getting engaged.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. And then how long from, meeting, getting engaged to being married?
Yeah, so it's quite a story. When we were, I think it was over about a year and a half from when we first met to when my last official trip to the United Kingdom. About 3 days before we were leaving, we were actually in London, and we were just knowing that our trip was getting ready to end and sitting there talking. And that's when we found out that Samantha was pregnant.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Samantha was pregnant.
Talking about taking a risk.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now what?
Now what? Exactly. So then there was this huge, we had to sit there and kind of decide at this point, what now, and typically in the interest of when, you were going to now start a family, you tend to want to gravitate towards where the mother lives at so that she can be with her family and have a support system. But I really can't even stress the gratefulness that I will have for the rest of my life that she decided that she was going to take the risk and move to the United States.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, that's huge.
Wow. So you're actually saying to everyone out there that she agreed to leave her country.
Yeah. Yeah.
To come to the United States.
To come to the United States.
Wow. If that's not a bold enough risk to leave everything behind to come to the United States to be with you.
Hands down, probably her most boldest decision she's ever made.
Wow.
Yeah. And it wasn't easy. It hasn't been easy.
Wow.
But there's just the huge gratefulness that I've had for her to do that, to be able to come here. And then, like I said, for us to be together, so that I could continue working, and then be able to support go through her pregnancy, be able to be there for her pregnancy, and then to have our first child, Jaya. It was such a huge risk and a huge decision on her side, and very bold. Very bold.
That was very bold. And I'm sure that you've said that to Samantha many times over, how grateful that
Absolutely.
you are that she left her country to come to the United States. So taking that risk, and her coming here and you taking the risk to travel in the first place, and then her having to make a bold enough risk to come to the United States. And now that you have not only one child, but just fast forwarding a little bit, you have a second child, Nyla. You have Jaya and Nyla. And now you're both living, your entire family's living here in the United States. Talk a little bit about how is it raising a family, a biracial children,
biracial family,
a British white wife,
interracial couple, biracial family,
and the United States. And what's it like?
Yeah.
The risk of all of these bold enough risks coming together.
Yeah.
Actually, they're all colliding.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
All these risks that were taken.
Yeah. And I think also when you make, when you come or you eventually get the courage and to make these decisions, I think there needs to be some understanding that you're not going to have it all figured out. There's going to be some confrontations. There's going to be things that are uncomfortable, and you just have to kind of understand that's going to come with the decisions. If you play it easy, it will be easy. These bold decisions, these risks you're taking, they're going to have, struggles, consequences, very, very uncomfortable time periods. You're going to go through some ups and downs, but the whole picture of it is that you're making these decisions to end up with a better and more enjoyable type of life.
Thank you. I could not have said it better. And that's what Bold Enough is all about, James. You said it perfectly. It's not always going to be easy when you take risk, but the other side of it is so worth it. Life isn't perfect. You are going to have bumps in the road.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is, those bumps are not significant compared to the bigger picture. And I've seen you interact with your wife. I've seen you interact with your children. I've seen you collectively as a whole. I've seen your new home.
Yeah.
And I see the children running and playing in the yard. And what I see is peace. What I see is joy. What I see is happiness. That's priceless. You cannot put a price tag on that.
Yeah.
And that's worth the bold risk.
And another thing to kind of add on to that, I think when you start to take that bold risk, that fearful bold risk, and you get past the uncomfortableness, the consequence, just the things that go right and that go wrong, it inspires you or makes you courageous enough to take another one.
Nice.
And then
point.
another one. And I say that because taking these, what I want to say, calculated but bold risk, eventually led to, like, before I met Samantha, she also took bold risk. She had started her own women's gym. And then that was one of the reasons why I ventured to the United Kingdom, is that I was coming there to assist and help her manage her female only gym, right?
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
And then, when we decided to, and that's why I also said it's just such a huge part on her side. When she came to America, she then took another bold step and decided that she was going to start an online gym or online fitness, where she now has over 50,000 followers from that. Making,
Yes.
and that's the thing, like, taking those bold decisions, it just inspired in our household, inspired us to take additional bold decisions or additional bold risk. And we know we're going to go through ups and downs, and she can tell you she's went through some ups and some downs. But by far, we are such in a happier place now than we would have been if we would have just played it easy and safe.
Yes. And I'm hoping that Samantha will come on, at some point to the podcast and talk about her online, fitness, because I would love for the listeners out there
her journey is
to understand her journey.
Her journey
as well,
is incredible,
and give a sequel to Coming to America, right? Samantha's Way. Yeah. That would be really, really great too. But tell the listeners also about your Bold Enough career, how you were in a structured that 9 to 5 and how you kind of branched out and then you've kind of changed your career several times, as well as you're molding, your family. I think that's important because there are different seasons of your life as well in your careers that I don't want to leave out as you're taking bold enough risk that you will need to do from time to time. There are times where you take risk where you're fearful to do in your careers, and I want Jay to explain that because he's done a little bit of that. You've had structure, unstructured,
absolutely
structure, and it's been back and forth.
So I've been in software sales for easily 9 to 10 years of my life. Typical 9 to 5. COVID obviously changes things, but structured corporate 9 to 5 career. And software sales is great. It pays well. It does pretty well by any standard of the means. But one of the things, and especially when my father passed away, there was something that hit me that said that I started to think about my children. I started to think about the wage gap and how that's just increasing. And how was I going to set my children up to be successful or to have at least a leg up so that they could do whatever they wanted to do without trying to worry financially about how they were going to support themselves. And so one of the things that I did, and I remember talking to Samantha about this, was I said I wanted to go into real estate, and not just being a real estate agent, but going in and becoming a real estate, they want to call it flipping or remodeling, a development. And I had no previous experience of that before. Never have done it, never have even, it just really came out of nowhere. But it was in a sense of urgency for myself because I was thinking, at that time I was 42 or 43 years old. And yes, I had a 401k and all that, but I just didn't feel like it was growing fast enough that I was thinking, what am I going to leave? Or what are we, Samantha and I, going to leave our kids so that they can have a better life? And so I talked to Samantha about this and I said, hey, this is where my heart is telling me and taking me. And she easily could have squashed that. I remember this to this day. Like when I mentioned this to her, she could have just been like, no, or I don't know, or she could have said any kind of things, but she was just like, no, you go do that. You go do that. And that was the encouragement that I needed. I remember something that it was, I can't remember the exact thing, but I remember in the job that I had at that time, they were asking me to go do something or try to go into management or something like that. And I remember Samantha saying, you're not a software salesman anymore. You are in real estate and you are a developer now. And that encouragement helped me to take that step. And that was probably, I would honestly say, if I was going to rank some of the boldest risk that I've ever done, hands down was one of the boldest ones. Because I did a complete complete 180 with no experience, no anything. But it has hands down made the biggest financial for our family and from our kids that I've ever made.
You actually just brought out something, a new dimension, actually, to bold enough to take a risk. And that is, viewers and listeners, is that think about when you are choosing that partner that you are going to marry. Are they an individual that's going to be bold enough to take risk?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because if they are not, there may be some incompatibility when you are wanting to reach out and take a bold enough risk.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because you have to be in a marriage aligned in that partnership.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because if not, that could wreak some havoc.
Yeah.
So had she said no, would you not have done it?
Probably not.
Probably not.
No.
And then you would not have met that financial desire that you wanted to set up for the children. And as a leader and the man of your household, that may have had you feeling a different way than what you're feeling today.
Yeah. If she would have said no, I would have I will definitely say this. If she would have said no, if she would have given me pause, if she would have had any type of, and I'm reading her, if she would have been like any type of uncomfortableness, I would have absolutely, if not just flat out not done it, I would have paused. I would have thought about it. I would have thunk it. And the fact of it is that her saying yes made me action right away. And it was that right away decisions.
Wow.
Immediate that had me.
That's powerful.
Right. That led to me doing 4 or 5 or 6 real estate deals at the very beginning that completely transformed our entire life.
Wow. That's amazing. That is amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I applaud you, nephew, for being bold enough to say, I want to travel, and you traveled. For being bold enough to choose that right partner that also was a risk taker. And Samantha, you're not here today, but I know you're going to be listening. And thank you. Thank you also for being a risk taker. I am so proud of the two of you as being bold enough to take those risks. And I'm so proud of the family that you have already built and what you're continuing to grow and nurture. And I have to tell you, my little nieces are bold enough. They're already entrepreneurs. I see them doing their little businesses already. And I don't know where they're getting all of this from, but just kidding. I think it's in our genes. But on a more serious note, I just want to end by saying this. You have to be bold enough to take a risk. If you are not bold enough, you will regret it. You are saying to yourself that I'm not worth it. I'm not worth the other side of opportunity. I am not worth the other side of opportunity that brings me more freedom, that brings me more joy, that brings me more peace, that gives me this life of more fulfillment. I'm not worth it. And guess what? I believe you are worth it. But my opinion doesn't matter. Your opinion matters, how you feel about yourself. So what I want you to do today is I want you to go look in that mirror and I want you to say, I am worth it.
Yes.
And I am going to take that risk that I have been thinking about, and I'm going to do it now. Thank you for joining us today. Be bold enough to take that risk and do it today. You're worth it. See you next week. Be bold enough.
Thank you.
Thank you for being with us.
You're welcome.
I love you.
Love you too.
you cannot live your life based on other people's expectations.
Yeah.
Particularly older generations have had a basic formula for many, many years. And that is to do things safely in a very methodical order.
Yeah.
That may not be who you are.
Yeah.
Okay? So I want to just point that out.
Yeah.
So I was hearing you need to do X, Y, Z because that's a standard of what is safe.
And understandably, because they're trying to look out for you.
And they're trying to look out
for you.
because that's being protective, that's showing love, right?
It is.
So bold enough to take a risk is breaking the mold.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that decision, like you said, just taking that decision completely transformed the trajectory of my entire life. That decision, that one decision,